Hello everyone, I hope everyone's doing okay. Today we're gonna go ahead and make a model of a knife. It's nothing fancy, nothing crazy, just something simple. That way y'all would see how I make it or how I made it. It's simple, there's nothing to it. Use my iPad and drew a picture, and with that I've used Blender and made a model of it. So with this, I'm gonna go ahead and put this video on TimeLapse. That way you would go the process, because I am not doing a tutorial on how to use Blender. I'm doing a tutorial on how to import items and weapons into DayZ. But again, I'm gonna make a quick time-lapse video of me modeling this knife. That way you'd see it, and I'll get back to you once it's done. Before I go, I did not think of that before I started doing it, so I made two videos. So when the tutorial actually begins and I say hello guys again, or hello everyone again, sorry, don't laugh at me, okay? I'm not a YouTuber. This is actually my first tutorial video ever, because I don't do stuff like that. If this works out, I'm actually thinking about making more videos that if this works out. So don't forget to support the channel. Give me a like, subscription, activate that bell, and I appreciate it. Thank you in advance. See y'all in a minute. Hello everyone. Today we're going to be doing an import into DayZ. We're going to be bringing in this model, this knife that I've modeled, and there's a couple of stuff that needs to be set up in order to import stuff, which is like setting up your P drive. I am not going to show you that today in this video on how to set up the P drive. I might do another video later on describing how to do it, but I'm focusing mainly on how to import stuff like this into DayZ. I've actually imported multiple stuff. I have a mod over here. Let's go take a look at it real quick. So I have a mod that is public. It's multiple tools, a lot of tools that I've imported into DayZ. I've modeled and imported. So feel free to check it out. It has everything you need in it. After you set up your P drive and everything, that's what we're gonna pick up. That's what we're gonna show. That's what I'm gonna show you how to do it. So let's go ahead and get started. If you create a P drive, it should not look like this. There's a lot of stuff in here, but you should have at least this folder, which is the DayZ. We're going to be using that today to get some properties of other items in game. That way we can like extend it or make it work with it. So let's go ahead, and I've created this folder called A tutorial. I want it to be on top, that's why I put an A in there. But first thing first, let's go ahead and create a file called config, and it's going to be .cpp. Yes, I want to change it. So obviously the config.cpp is empty. I'm going to tell y'all what to what to write in and what to put in it. So and by the way, guys, everything that you see in here, as far as folders and stuff like that, is going to be included in the description below. So feel free to grab it, learn from it, do whatever you need. So this is my tools that I've already published. So if we look at the config, it has nothing but like the patches, the class name for which is the folder name. Really, that's what you want to use. That's what I use, at least. With units, weapons, like the version required can be anything really. And required add-ons, you can put this empty if you don't want any dependencies for the mod to work. And here's some information about you, just like the direction of the folder, if there's a picture, if you want to hide the name, which I don't, hide the picture, stuff like that. I don't know why you would hide the name, but anyways. And that's it. It's pretty simple. So let's go ahead and copy this over. This folder, this file is going to be in the description, like I said. And after we fix that, let's go ahead and create a folder. We'll call it Blade, just for testing. So inside this folder, we'll make another one called Data. You don't necessarily need that, but I like to keep my mod like nice and clean. So if we go back, I have already made the textures as you saw in the beginning of the videos. I made it with 3D Substance Painter. So let's go ahead and copy these over, Data, and paste it here. So what you want to do is, I'm not going to do it the way I do it. I'll show you the way that is the easier. So if we go to text view over here, open up text view, and let's come over here and okay, they made this mix smaller, that way I can see both. All right, so let's go ahead and grab the base color, put it here, file, save as, and we'll save it at the same location, but we'll call it, let's say, blade dot PAA. That's what DayZ uses a PAA. We're gonna save it one more time, but this time we're gonna put an underscore SMDI. Okay, now if you open the SMDI one, you'll see it is different because it's an SMDI picture. And by the way, I need to change this to put a CO in there, that way I'd know it. And let's go ahead and get the normal map, and we'll do the same with the normal map. File, save as, and it'll be the same name but without the CO. Instead of the CO, sorry, it will be no HQ, and save. So we're done with this part. You can delete these. I usually keep them sometimes, just depends, but most of the time I delete them. Now we're gonna need rvmats for the game to read, not this one obviously, but these two. This one's going to be read through the object builder, which I'm going to show you how to do that. But we're going to need to get some rvmats. I've already created some with my other mod, but I'm going to go ahead and grab it real quick, and I will link these in the description. That way you can go ahead and grab them. Let's paste them here, and let's go ahead and change the name to Blade. Let's make it lowercase b, and this one is going to be Blade Damage and Blade Destruct. So what we're going to do is we're going to copy this path without the P. We're going to go to Blade, change this. Obviously you want to just change whichever one has the no HQ in it. You need to change that. And there's should be another one with an SEMDI, which is this right here. We're gonna go ahead and replace it with the same line. Hit save. We're gonna go back later and change the names, so we'll do the same with the damage. Change this, and let's go down here, change this, save it. By the way, I'll hit Control S to save. You can also save from here. So let's do the destruct same way, and Control V. We'll leave that as is right there. We'll move over here and Control V and save. Now we need the names. So I'm gonna copy this over. Go to here. Change this with the no HQ. Let's grab just the blade. Control C. And change just this. Control V because it has the same name. If you notice, it has blade underscore SMDI. Same over here. Save it. Get out. Go back to the damage. Do the same thing. I think you get what I'm doing right now. I mean, you got it by this point. It's just changing the names to match these names right here. Let's do the destruct as well. And oops. Let's go ahead and change this to and save. Now we're done with this part. Pretty much everything is set up well, except for one thing. We need another config in here. I'm gonna go ahead and copy it over because honestly I don't feel like typing it in again. Let's go ahead and pick any of these. So this and the CFG model, we're gonna need 2 of these. We're gonna need the config and the model. So we have a config.cpp and model.cfg. So let's go ahead and take a look at the config real quick before we proceed. Again, this top part is the CFG patches. This is exactly what you saw in here. Same thing. Like if you notice here and here are the same thing. There's no difference. So going down to CFG vehicles, now this is the fun part. Let's go ahead and delete these. That way we know what to write them. Okay. All right. So I know this is confusing. It's really confusing, but all of that came from the DayZ folder, the one that I told you about in the beginning of the video. So let's go ahead and take a look at that real quick and see what kind of information we can extract from it. So if we go to DayZ, from DayZ we'd go to gear. From gear you can go to tools. Obviously those are all the tools that are in DayZ. There are weapons too. Matter of fact, let's go to weapons. So if we go to DayZ, scroll down to till you see weapons, you go to weapons and then you go to melee. From here you have the blade. You have blunt obviously with other stuff, but we need blade. That's what we need. So we want our knife to act like, let's say a combat knife, right? So we'll open up the config, we hit Control F and search for combat. So there it goes, combat knife. So what we'll do is we grab this over here, we'll go all the way down until we reach the end, which is, we'll keep going. You'll know it's the end when there's another line starts, like here, class hunting knife. So there's another line, so that's where you would stop. You would stop here, copy this over, go to here and paste it. So what you see in here is same thing as copying this. I just wanted to show you what we could use that for, right? So if we go back to here, there's another line that's an extra, which is this right here, the CfgAmmo. Now the reason I add this right here is to apply damage, to give that knife the damage that I want, not what DayZ wants per se. So if I leave it as is, DayZ will think it's a combat knife, and it'll use the same like, let's say, damage and stuff like that for the knife that I'm creating. But if I add the CfgAmmo in here, if I add this line, now I can give it the damage that I want. Like for the health, 30, for blood 60%, for shock 0. There will be no shock damage, right? So and so on. If you put this at 100, this at 100, it'll kill the player with 1 hit. If you put a shock at 100, it'll knock him out with 1 hit. You get what I'm saying. So let's go ahead and make the knife. Before we make the knife, let's go ahead and go to the DayZ weapons blade. Let's search for combat again. Oops. Let's search for combat, and then we just want this part, combat knife. Come back over here, class combat knife, semicolon. And oops, no, we don't want it here. We want it on this side actually. Now this side, this is the name that you want to give it, the spawn name. If you type in this name in game, it'll spawn. So let's call it test underscore blade, right? So now this, if we type this in the game, it'll spawn us the knife. Obviously there's no knife yet, we haven't created it yet, but I want to go ahead and set this up first before we move on to the hardest part, right? To the object builder part. So let's go ahead and make sure we got everything. So display name, that's the name that the player will see in game. So let's call it tutorial knife. So for description, what do you want to put it at? Let's call it this is a test, right? So the path to the model is going to be in the same folder that you created, which for me is going to be the A tutorial. It's going to be in here. That's where I'm going to put it at. So I will need this, just that part. I'm sorry, not here, but in the blade. This is where the model is going to be. So let's go ahead and copy this tutorial blade, and let's go back to here and change this with the new line. Now obviously this will be different. This will be empty. Let's put a couple of A's in here. And debug category, to be honest, I don't know what that does. I've never tested it out. It's there. Okay, the animation class is going to be knife. Repairable with kits. Which kit's going to repair it? So 4 is the sharpening stone. Repair cost, how much sharpening stone will it consume? So I have it at 6. It'll consume 6% each time you sharpen this knife. So the hidden selection, the path, and the name, I'm going to explain that later when we go to the object builder. So we'll keep this as a camo. That's what I like to use the most. And for the path, is going to be the same path as the data. So we'll copy this path over and come over here and paste it here. Let's change this couple of A's because we don't know what it is yet. Well, we do actually. It's this right here, the blade CO. The CO is just the main color. Let's paste it here. So the path to the tutorial to the location that this file is in, the PA file, which is that right there. Inventory slots. If there's a knife, like when you put the knife in the boots, that's the slots. If you change this to belt, the knife will attach to the belt, which there's no location for it, but just to understand what it is. Rotation flags, again, have no idea what that is. I'm sorry. If you depend on me to tell you what that is, I don't know. This is self-explanatory. Can skin bodies? Yes. If you put 0, then you won't be able to skin animals. Restraint unlock type is 1, so which means it'll unlock any restraints like rope or the tape. The weight, how much it weighs, so it's what is that, 15 gram. And item size, the size in your inventory, how big is it? It'll be 1 by 3, 1 slot by 3 slots. Loot category, that's if you're making your own loot category. I actually add this. I added this for the other stuff where I made my own categories, so you can do that too if you wanted to. But if you don't want it, you can just delete this line. That's fine. The item info, you can delete that as well. It's not a big issue. Open item spill range, which means it'll open cans, but the spill range. So if you open a can of food with this knife, how much should it spill? It'll spill between 6% and 14%. So if I put here 0 and 0, that means it won't spill anything. It'll just open it. But since it's a knife, it's not a can opener. Let's go ahead and make it not 80, sorry, 20, and make this 10. So between 10 and 20%, sorry, that's what it's gonna spill. So the damage system, that's when it should change from one state to another, like from pristine to ruined. I mean, from pristine to damaged to badly damaged to ruined. It uses the rvmats that we did in here, which is those. We need to change the names and the paths for it. That's one thing important that we need to do it. Actually, I'll show you a quick way to do it. It's super simple. But after we do that, the hit points, how much hit points you should take. So at 3,500, it's pretty much unkillable. I usually keep mine at like 5,500 or at 45. That way they won't get ruined at all. But if you want to get it, if you want to have them to where they get ruined, you could put like 120. It should work. It's totally up to you, however you want to do it. I usually keep mine again at 5,000, 4,000, sometimes 3,500. I'll keep this at 3,500. We'll come back and change these later. So is it a melee weapon? Yes, it's a 1. Suicide animation, one-handed. And let's move on. This, I've never understood what that is. I mean, I know it's used for the CfgAmmo. I just don't know exactly what it does. So if you notice, it has melee, right? Then melee, another melee. So I just add the class name over here. That's exactly what I'm gonna do. Copy the class name, come down here, change this. We obviously want the heavy to stay in there. Same thing for that. We want the heavy to stay in there. So if you're making your own, just change this part where it says test blade. I'll include this in the description, so just change that part. The numbers, I never understood what those are. I left them as is. They worked. For the CfgAmmo, now the melee cutter, we'll change it to the test blade. So again, just change this part to match yours, but it needs to have the name over here. It needs to have it here and here. So let's go ahead and do this real quick. Change this and this. There we go. Now the damage applied, that's when you're sprinting and hitting something, and that's when you're like still. So however you want to do it. Actually, this needs to have 1 melee, not 2. I don't understand why there's 2 in there, but it needs to have 1. That's weird. I'm sorry about that, but let's go ahead and continue on. So coming down, those are the sounds. You can literally delete all that. It's not necessary. But I keep it there just in case the game decides, hey, let me go ahead and look for the sound sets. So yeah, that's why I keep it there. Again, you can remove it, but I would suggest leaving it in there. Let's go ahead and save, make sure it's saved, and close out of that. Now we go to the fun part. So let's go ahead and open up Object Builder. So this Object Builder, I have mine set up this way. Yours might not look like this. Mine does, because that's how I set it up. I am going to be doing a video later on, or to be honest, I can't promise when, but I'll do a video on explaining the Object Builder and how to work with it. So for models and how to import them, you can actually go to something like CG Trader, Sketchfab, whatever. Get you a model. Those are paid ones. You can search for free ones, like this or that. You can just download it and use it. Totally up to you. I don't like to do that. I don't like getting someone else's models. I like to use my own. That's how I've always done it. So let's go ahead and, oh, by the way, when you buy the model, download it, make sure it's an FBX. I mean, other stuff works, like we have 3D Studio, we have the Universal by Studio, we have OBJ and all that, but we have Maya as well. I like to use FBX. It works. It's actually the only one that worked for me, so that's why I use it. So let's go ahead and start with this. First thing first, let's go ahead and import FBX. So I already know where I've saved mine, but whatever you download to yours, that's where you need to do it. So I named mine tutorial and double click it. It comes up with this. Let's go ahead and master scale, put it to 0.01. That's where it needs to be at. Import, there it goes. The model is in here. The model that you saw earlier that I modeled. You might have seen me put a flashlight in Blender right next to the knife when I did it. That is because I want to get like a measurement of how big is it going to be in game. That's how I do it. I either compare it to a flashlight or a knife or whatever, stuff like that. So those are the LODs right here. And those are the properties of the LODs. So whenever you load in your model, whatever it's called, it'll come over here. So this I will change to camo. If you remember from the config, when I said camo right here, the hidden selections, that's why I name it camo. That's one of the reasons I named this camo. So now camo is this. Let's go ahead and assign a texture to it. So while you double clicked on that, hit the letter E on your keyboard, echo. This will come up. You go to texture, you select this folder, you go to whatever you have yours saved. So mine is in tutorial, blade, data. Change this to PAA. We'll choose the blade CO PAA. Right, so we need the CO, the main color. Open. And yours might have something like this. Yours might have a P in there with a slash and all that. So make sure you delete that if it does, because otherwise it will not work. Again, you need to remove that P from there. So same thing for this, but this time it's same path, tutorial, blade, data, but instead of the CO, we'll choose the rvmat, which is the main one, the blade rvmat. Hit open. Again, if it has a P in there with a slash, remove it. Hit apply. Wait a second. Okay, there we go. Now, after we have set it up, we have set up the textures. Let's go ahead and duplicate this once and twice. Right click, duplicate. So this one, we're gonna go ahead and go to properties. I'm gonna obviously go right click, properties, change this to a memory. You double click memory and it changed. Now this one will change to geometry. So right click, properties, let's go to geometry. Double click geometry. Now we're in geometry. So make sure we're in geometry. We'll go to structures. See right there, structures, topology, find components. Hit OK. So it found 13 components. So I click the first one. I hit shift, I'll keep pressing shift, and I'll select this one, so it'll select everything. I don't want to select the camo, just the components. From here, you see the mask down here. I'll change the mask to 1. I'll put a 1 for mask and hit enter. Now, if you select any of these, you see the mask over there changes depending on the parts that you have selected, right? We'll click off of that. Now, geometry is the one that needs to be duplicated, not the other LODs. So the first LOD, the second LOD, you don't need to duplicate this. You just need to duplicate the geometry. Duplicate. Oh, sorry. go duplicate and duplicate and duplicate. I'll make 3 duplicates. So this one, whatever, let's go properties, change this to fire geometry, double click. We'll go to the second one, properties. Now this one will change to view geometry, double click. And last one, which is this, right click, properties, we'll go to view pilot, double click. Now we're kind of done almost, but not all the way. Now we need to double tap on memory. We need to delete camo. After you delete camo, you hit delete on your keyboard. You need to delete this as well. So again, let me do it one more time. So if you once you double tap on memory, you'll see this, right? You select this, you hit delete on your keyboard. It'll delete this. Then you right click and delete that, right? So you're left with this yellow thing, which is, it tells you the location of the other LODs, not this one because this is just a memory. So what we need to do is we need to make sure that the game will be able to read this blade, which means we're going to have to add points, anchor points. So first of all, we go all the way to the top of this knife. We select it, we hit insert on the keyboard. You'll see that dot, and then with your right click, by dragging it, you can drag it all the way to the edge. You see, like it's right there at the edge, and it needs to be on the top from here. That way it'll, if you can imagine a box around this is where it would be. You can actually put a box into it. I don't like doing it that way. Other people do it, I don't. You can look at this view and line it up. That way it'll be in there, right? Or this view or the top view. While this is selected, we'll come over here, we'll hit right click, hit new. We'll call this bounding box underscore max. Hit enter. Now you select off of it, you hit like you left click anywhere. Now we go to the bottom of the knife and we hit insert. There's another one. Right click, drag all the way to the end. Make sure it's almost lined up with this. Same thing over here, lined up here. So if you notice, it's kind of making a box. While this is clicked, if you click off of it, that's fine. You can reselect it again. With your left click, then you go back over here, you hit right click, new. We'll name this bounding box underscore min, which is minimum. Hit enter. Now the bounding boxes are done. Now we need to add 2 more things. Well, a couple more things, but the main thing is going to be find the center of the knife, not the center of these 2, but the center of the knife. It can be approximate, doesn't have to be exact. So if I'm looking at this, this looks like it's going to be the center. So I hover over here and hit insert. With that, I'll come over here. It's because it's centered already. Well, I don't need to center it. It's already centered. I'll come over here, right click, new. I'll call this CE underscore center. That's where it needs to be, CE center. So I'll click off of that. Now this time I'll come to whatever the top of the player's hand is going to be, whatever the blade is going to start, and the top of the player's hand is going to be, which is going to be right there. So I select right there, and I hit that. I add it with insert. Come over here, right click, new. We'll call this melee range start, one word. Hit enter. Same thing to the top of the blade. We'll come to the top and hit insert. Come over here, new. We'll call this melee range end. Again, one word. Click off of that. We need to add a radius, one more thing, which is going to be the same height as this. So I hover over this one right here, hit insert. This added right there. So I'm going to drag this all the way where it kind of matches up with this and it matches up with that, with those 2 points. I come over here, right click, new. I'll name this CE underscore radius. So this is pretty much done. Now what we need to do is we need to go to the first LOD. Which LOD is that? View. So I'm missing one thing. I might have changed it without realizing it. Oh, so view pilot is there, geometry is there, view geometry is not there. So let's go ahead and properties, change this to view geometry. Might have changed it without realizing it. Anyways, so we'll go back to the first LOD, which is the 00 LOD. We'll come over to the properties over here. Yours might be somewhere else on the screen, but it should say that property name and value. So right click, new. We'll call this LOD LOD no shadow, one word. Oop, I forgot the D in there. So LOD no shadow, LOD no shadow. We'll come down here, we'll hit 1 for the value and select OK. Same thing, we'll go for the geometry, double click on geometry, come to the properties, right click, new. We'll call this auto, AUTO, center, auto center, one word. We'll go back down here and we hit 0, or we put 0 for the value. Hit OK. Now this is done. That's it. That's everything to it. Now we'll go to File, Save As, and let's go ahead and go to the P drive, the tutorial, and Blade. We'll save it here. We'll call it Blade Test. Save. Now it's there. Let's go ahead and exit out of this. If we come over here, we'll find it over here. It says Blade Test. And let's go ahead, let me make sure. Yeah. So sorry about that. I was thinking of something else. But now we'll go to Blade, Config. We make sure that the name of the P3D model, make sure we copy this name and come over here where it says model. We already set up the path. Now we just need to add the name in here with the .p3d and hit save. Now this should work, but we're gonna go ahead and change the values for the damage. If you want to assign damage, again, I don't do it sometimes because I keep this at a higher number and it will not get damaged. So with this being said, let's go ahead and change these. The easier way to do it is actually, see this right here? You can copy this where it says hidden selections. We've already set this path up. So if we select this all the way where it says blade without the CO part, without the underscore CO part, we'll Control C, copy that. Come down here, select all of this until you reach rvmat and hit paste. That's the easiest way to do it. Let's go back to here. We'll do the same thing over here. We'll copy all that where we reach cutters, Control V or paste. Same thing with here. Copy all, well, select all that where once you reach damage, you need to either do it this way, paste, or hit Control V like I do it. It's a lot easier. Let's go ahead and do this one. Again, you select it all the way until you see this, the underscore damage, Control V. We'll do the same thing over here. Select all that until you reach the underscore destruct, Control V, and save. That's it. That's everything to it. Now we'll go over it one more time, make sure that we have set everything correctly, the names. So let me explain this real quick. So what this is. So again, this name is what I use to spawn the item. So this name extends this, which means this object is gonna copy whatever this object is, which is the combat knife. Now the combat knife needs to be defined. How you define it is right there. That's how you define stuff. So let's say I have other items like I don't know. I mean, God, I can't remember stuff. Let's go ahead and say paper. Okay, it's just an example. So we'll add. Oops, what's wrong with me today? class space paper. So now we can, after we are done with this, we come down here, we add class paper, and we go on with the same thing. But this won't work because you see the semicolon is up here. It needs to be at the last one, not at the top one. So this needs to be deleted and it needs to be put down here. Now this will work. So the semicolon, whatever you, how many ever you have, sorry, how many ever you have, it needs to be without it. The last one, this is the only one that needs to have it. So let's go ahead and delete that because we don't need it. Put the semicolon back in there, save it, and we're done. So what do we do now? We need to pack it. Every mod needs to be packed. The way I do it with the DayZ tools. So let me go ahead and make sure that this one is empty. This is my test folder. As you can tell, I do a lot of testing and stuff in here. So for your mod or test, whatever, you need to create another folder. Within that folder, there's an add-on folder. That's where the mod's gonna go, right? So let's go ahead and go to DayZ tools. This time we'll go to the Addon Builder. Now Addon Builder, we'll choose, we'll choose the name, the source directory. Let's go ahead and go into these dots. Source directory is going to be in the P drive and tutorial, right? So we select this, hit OK. Destination is already set, but I'm going to go ahead and show you how to do it. You go for destination, P drive, whatever you have your mod is called, or the folder that you wish to put the mod in. You select it and you select add-ons and you hit OK, and that's where it's going to go. It's going to go to test add-ons, right? Binary select, all that. So for this options, for this right here down in options, I'm going to link that in the description. Those are excluded from being binarized, so I can put that in the description. That way you can copy it over if you don't have yours set up. Again, my Addon Builder already got the names and the key set up. I'm not gonna go over that today. Maybe in a later video I will. So after we set everything up, we'll hit pack. Now, if it gives you an error, you need to go back and fix that error. If it doesn't, perfect. So we'll wait for it until it does its thing and packs it up. There it goes. As soon as you see build successful, that's it. It's successful. If there's something wrong with it, it'll tell you that you have something extra or whatever, right? So hit OK. Close out of this. Now if you go to test add-ons, there it goes. It's right there. So let's actually test this with the community offline tools. Let's go ahead and make sure it's open. Let's go to mods, unload all of these mods, local mod. It's already selected because I do a lot of testing. Select folder. Make sure we click it, make sure it's enabled, and let's hit play. I'm not gonna show you again, sorry, but I'm not gonna show you how to set up community offline tools. There are tons and tons of videos on YouTube on how to make how to set up the community offline tools. So let's go ahead and see what we have. We are here in the community offline tools. Let's go ahead and put that up. Now hit Y. And as you remember, we called it test underscore blade, which is right there. That's the spawn name. So let's spawn it on the cursor, and there you go. Look at this. Perfect. So if you look at it, now this, you can see it like that because you see it like this because that's the view of it. Now if you want to have a different view, like how this looks or how this looks, you need to set up an inventory view. It's super simple. I'll show you how to do it, but let's go ahead and look at this. So the name of it is tutorial knife. The description is this is a test, and you can see it looks pretty sick, right? So let me go ahead and show you how to set up the inventory view, right? So I want to have a different view, not that. Let's go ahead and close out of this. Close out of that. And let's go ahead and go to the mod, which is right here. Tutorial blade. Let's open up the P3D. Now with the P3D opened, we need to add a point for the camera to look at this blade. How we do this is we need to go to memory, double click. You can choose anywhere and just hit insert. Oops, sorry. Insert. Now with insert in there, you see that dot, you can move it anywhere you want to. I generally keep it kind of like angled like that, so it'll look at the knife from this position downward and from here to the side. With this selected, let's go ahead and right click here, new. We'll call this InvView, which stands for inventory view. Now with this set, let's save it, close out of that, and let's repack it. Addon Builder, and let's go ahead. Everything is set from previously, so we just need to hit pack. It says already exists. I know we can override it because we need to override it so we can see the new inventory view. Build successful. Okay. Let's go back to the launcher. It's already selected. It's a local mod, so it should work. Hit play. I'll come back to y'all once the game launches. Alright, so we're back into the game. Let's hide this weapon. Let's go ahead and hit Y, object spawner. It's called test underscore blade. So the view actually changed slightly. I should have exaggerated it, that way you can see the different view, but you can see the view, it's kind of tilted. It was like this, now it's kind of like that. You get what I'm saying? So with changing that dot, it'll change how you look at it. So if you put, like, let's say that's the model, and you put the dot over here, like all the way to the side, it'll kind of look at the knife like this. If you put it down to the bottom, it'll look at the knife like that. Top, it'll look at it like this. So yeah, there it is for you. Let's go ahead and spawn a zombie and test it on the zombie and see the damage for it. Object spawner, AIs. Let's go ahead and spawn a zombie under the cursor. We have the knife in hand. What are you doing, zombie? That's 1 hit, 2 hits, 3 hits, right? So you can increase it to make it kill the zombie or the player with 1 hit. That's all to it. Again, thanks everyone for watching the video. Thank you for sticking around. I appreciate it. There will be more videos coming in soon, so stay tuned, and thank you.